It doesn't matter if you can get a brand deal. It doesn't matter if, you're able to secure a short-term sponsorship.
Because that's not long-term wealth.
It's not long-term wealth.
And it's not education.
Exactly right. And for the things that aren't, so long as I continue to stay on the path, it will reveal itself. I'm sorry to laugh, but it's a business.
What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of Timeout with Sko. I'm here with a guest, Justice Bartley. Justice is a former Division I player. He started as a walk-on at Virginia and worked his way up to earning a scholarship. He was then a graduate assistant at University of Miami and then went on to coach at the NBA level, whether it was video coordinating, working with player analysis, things of that nature. He's worked with the Portland Trail Blazers, Los Angeles Lakers, and has won a championship with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I just want to thank you for joining me today.
No, pleasure is mine. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah.
Sometimes the years go by, it feels like a blur, but it's always good to have a little reminder where you've been.
Yeah, I'm really excited about you being here. I'm excited about this episode. Your story is one that I think is really just valuable and important to share with others. Can you talk more about, growing up, you're a son of a coach, right?
That's
So
right.
talk about some of those experiences, for you as a kid and throughout high school.
Oh, yeah, that too. So my dad being a coach, he's coached on all levels, from the pro level all the way down to grassroots basketball, especially in Atlanta at that time, which was a critical moment. And I've always been around older players. I've always seen, how they move, how they interact, and then from seeing them play AAU to playing professionally, that's always been my vision as well. So it felt like it was natural, to follow into those footsteps. And honestly, my dad, he does his thing, being a great, because, being a coach, it set those expectations for myself of what a real coach should be, how they conduct themselves, what it's really about. And man, when we were in high school,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah, no, because there's so many. You hear about father-son, coach-player dynamics, and it took us a little minute to actually find our common ground. But no, it was great. It was just constantly pushing me to be the best I could. The rest of the guys, my brother, and everything else too. So it was fun.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Obviously, I know your dad well, and great guy. Shout out Brian Bartley. But, talk about how his expectations for you, his kind of hard-nosed style parenting, how that really, impacted you as a person, as a player, and I think also, a testament to, your work ethic. Talk about, your journey as a walk-on to, the Division I level and, how all of those things have played a role in who you are, what you're doing, and, just your basketball journey.
It felt like my dad did a great job of doing his part and building this huge network, relationships with basketball and the people around it. I wanted the cheat code. I knew where I wanted to go, and I knew that my dad had could put me in the right steps to get there. I know I had the right family members that could, help me get to these points. But my dad was so huge on me doing it myself. There was no way out. Before he was my coach, and I wanted more playing time, whether it be AAU or in high school, he looked at me like, I'm not gonna go talk to the coach, you gotta figure this thing out.
Right.
You need to go talk to him. And so when he does that to even kids today, it's funny because they're, being hit with well, what's going on? When parents are talking to him, but it's the same thing. It's no, your son should be talking to me. And I think those experiences helped me when I got to college. And I wanted to play more at UVA. And I wanted to leave. And my parents they didn't let me leave. They're like, you're not leaving this school without a piece of paper. So that's when it's like, okay, cool, like I do whatever I can to graduate and find myself in a position to go play. And those are the types of traits that are just built inside me over so many years that even now I'm having to go back to and continue to find the way.
Did you ever think as a walk-on that you had a legit shot of earning a scholarship? And how did you remain so positive during that time, right? You went 2.5 years, were a walk-on, paying for your own, schooling, and now you're on scholarship and you're one of the guys, in a lot of ways. So, like, talk more about that.
I think end of the day, it came down to just being a hooper. Like I hoop, I love basketball, and that was something. It was the competitiveness as well. That's something that no one can take from me, no matter what the status of my role might have been. And it's knowing what it means to compete, and that's to challenge myself every single day to accomplish my goal. So being a walk-on, it was rough in the early stages. Yeah, like let's not get it twisted. Like it
No,
was, yeah.
spill the tea. Like people have to know. This is
People
good.
have to know, right? So I went from playing at Montrose Christian, starting on a team with guys that at the time are all playing in high major Division I schools. And I went to prep school. So I wanted to go to Cornell. It didn't end up working out. Go to prep school for a year and then land myself at UVA. And I went from having these ambitions of playing to you might not touch the court at all. Like, and TB was such a great guy by managing my expectations. And I think that that's something that all of us can do a better job of in this industry. Like, we have to manage expectations for everybody. And he let me know, like, you may not touch the court at all. And I can't say that you will never do that, but yeah, like we have guys lined up. We have guys that we've recruited, spent time with, and that we've, have plans for, in terms of like our success of the team. But for me, no, I felt like I had a legit chance on earning some minutes. And along the way, throughout that journey, it can wear on you when you think that like that's your only purpose. And that was the place that you escaped, was the court. So when it's taken from you in a way, it can almost feel like you're trapped in a box with no way out. And you move, like you take a look at this painting that you're working on in your life, and you got to take a step back and just move to the right a little bit, have a different perspective, and go back in it again. So for me, like that was my advantage and my solution. I wanted to win as well, and I knew that if I'm gonna put effort into something, I got to do my best. And I didn't care if these guys were considered better than me and or not. It was like I want to challenge everybody. Like, this is my role. This is what I signed up for. I'm going to execute and do a great job at what they're expecting me to do every day. And from there, that's when things started to pick up a little bit. And there was even like a part in that. Yeah, like there's a part in that you feel like the window's closing and you can't panic. You can't panic when the window's closing like that. You have to take a deep breath and reevaluate your own purpose. So for me, I also knew that I had a lot of people watching me. It was bigger than myself. I wanted to be part of the community, and my the results of my own actions, will be sought out by so many people will be paying attention to those things.
Right.
So it's a responsibility as well. And yeah, I just carried that, you know? I'm like, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it my way and I'm gonna have fun with it. I'm gonna make sure that there's a positive impact from whether it be my teammates, the community, the coaches, whoever. It was like that's the end of the day what you want to be remembered as. So yeah, it was great to see that come full circle and actually earn that scholarship in the process.
And I think too, you know, Coach Bennett being transparent with you about, hey, like I don't see you playing right now, right? You know, we have other guys that are ahead of you in the depth chart. I think a lot of times that's missing in sports, that honesty. But I think when coaches are honest with you, it gives you the ability to work from a place where you know what to expect, right? You're not coming in and feeling like, am I going to play? Am I not going to play? Right? Your job at that point is just to get better every single day. You know, if you do that and you take care of that, right, like you're going to put yourself in a good position. And so I think that's really important to note, you know, on the coaching side, like we have to be truthful with our players. And we can get a lot more from guys, right, if we're honest with them up front. And in some ways and in some situations that may not always work out, right? They may choose to go somewhere else, but like in turn, it actually spared you in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
You know? So
Yeah.
I think it's important that you share that.
I actually want to add a little bit to that too.
Yeah, go for it.
If you are, I think players today need to embrace the business. Like there's so many sides to the business, but when it comes to just player coach, like this is a business relationship. And what you don't want to find yourself in is a situation where you're almost you're playing cards. You know, it's like this is blackjack and you may not know what the other hand looks like. But to have a coach on the other side tell you like, no, this is the spread. This is the hand. You may not actually get out of this what you want. But hey, you may actually have a better hand. And who knows, the more you keep dealing, like the more you actually might have a better hand in a situation to actually get to the other side of what you want. But yeah, being able to like not know, that's a whole totally different side to it. So yeah, it's not running as well when you actually hear the truth and that honesty. Embrace it, lean in a little bit more, see where it goes.
Yeah. All right, so you finish your college career, and at what point do you decide, hey, it's time to get into coaching, or at what point do you decide I'm done playing basketball, you know, myself, and now, you know, I want to be a part of the game in some way, and coaching's the best path for me?
That hit home. I was home for surgery, and I really wanted to keep playing. The process to get back was longer than what I hoped for. And honestly, it was trying to get ahead of the curve. A lot of my friends were playing overseas, and they, just hearing their journeys, and at the same time, like I was watching film, so I just started like seeing like different ways of how they could get better on the court. And with one of the guys that I played with, I ended up talking to him a little bit about some of the things that he could do better that I saw. Might be helpful, might not be helpful. But he, you know, was open and received that message and actually suggested that I get into coaching. I was hesitant because my dad is coaching. I'm like,
Good. I don't want that life.
I don't want that life. And it's so funny looking back on it because when he was coaching at Auburn at the time, it was nothing like it is now. So even that, I was like, yeah, that's a totally different ball game. But it really felt like this was so natural for me. I've been in it for so long. And my mom gave me a great reminder. She was like, hey, if you end up going this route, it's not like you're going into it with no experience. You have years of experience from basically being an understudy, you know,
Right.
and seeing it. So just led with that. And that ended up, you know, leaving me being a GA at University of Miami.
Right. And how long were you GA there for?
A year, less
Year.
than that,
Year.
but yeah, that one season.
And then from the University of Miami, you then go where? What's your next stop?
The Bucks.
The Bucks.
Or I guess I'll add that it was COVID, so I had to go home and I was panicking for a little bit. But then, the phone rang. So,
All right.
yeah.
So you go to the Bucks. You win a championship there. How was that experience for you, being a part of a team that won, obviously, at the highest level? And talk about the different impacts that just being a part of a team has had on you and shaped you off the court.
That experience at that level and that stage is unique. I don't know what it's like for a player, but for a guy who's played, that it's hard to put into words because this thing applies to life, and it's an opportunity. Playing sports, playing basketball is an opportunity to get an entire metaphor of life, a life skill, through one season, the whole journey, everything. So what I mean by that is the amount of sacrifice that I had to make, that everyone had to make during that season was unreal. We were practicing, helping players out on the court, wearing masks on our face. Like, you couldn't breathe. Every single rep, it was like, pull it down. You hope to get one breath before the next rep, and this next rep is Drew Holiday coming at you, So it's like, yeah, you gotta be prepared for a lot. And everyone made the sacrifice of seeing their families and friends because they didn't want to catch COVID and be the person that got the team sick. It was the amount of hours put into it, the detail, the meticulousness that was required and demanded from you every single day. And having to show up and understand that if our team is going on a 3-game losing streak, whatever I got going on, I gotta make sure I leave that behind and show up to these guys and give them the best of myself. And it fluctuates. Like, you may not feel it that day, but who cares? Like, that's being able to see things from the right perspective, right? And for all those things to come full circle and you win it all, it's that feeling of like, yo, it was worth it. I'd do it again, the feeling of being around the same amount of people for so long, and you share so many memories together, and you're bonded, for life through that. And I think a trophy is the symbol of that memory, like all those core memories together. But it's even hard to put it into that, and how that applies off court is the same thing. With what I'm doing now and building a tech company, no one's asking me to get up at 4 or 5 in the morning every morning. No one is. But it's me understanding like this purpose and this passion that I have in seeing excellence at the greatest stage, and knowing that these are the things that are required to win and win big, and having to figure it out. So it's all those types of skills that apply to everyday life.
Yeah. Well, you brought it up, so I wanna transition a little bit to, you mentioned it kind of basketball coaching has kind of led you to starting your own business. Introduce your business. Tell me about your business, because I think so many players can just gain so much value from what you're doing. Talk about it more, and how did your experiences, enlighten you in a way where you're like, this is what players need, right? This is what's missing. And how has that kind of, shaped you and your ideas along the way?
Yes, I'm getting excited now. So our company's Aston, and we're building the first athlete wealth infrastructure, helping athletes secure their financial future. And because what matters are the things that last. And I'll even back up a little bit and talk about like how I got to this point. So again, like I fell in love with basketball because of my exposure to it. It was with my dad and my godfathers. I've probably mentioned them so many different times and different conversations that you and I have had. But
Right.
for those that don't know, my godfathers are Kenny Anderson, Kenny Smith, and the family that's grown along the way is just I've just seen so many guys come through. My dad's best man was Rod Strickland, and those guys playing at the highest level of when they were playing was everything for me. And I noticed the same highs and lows that they were going through during their career and after their career were the same experiences that I saw up close and personal with during my time in the league. And it didn't matter if it was in Milwaukee, Portland, or in Los Angeles. And understanding that pattern, that's what led me to wanting to build something that could help them. And it initially started off as just trying to help them, monetize themselves. And of course, that's, with brand deals. And you see that a lot in the college space. And I noticed my guys overseas weren't getting that same type of attention. So definitely wanted to build something that could allow them to also monetize themselves while they're playing across the water. And what we really came to find out was it doesn't matter if you can get a brand deal. It doesn't matter if you're able to secure a short-term sponsorship.
Right. Because that's not long-term wealth.
It's not long-term wealth.
And it's not education.
Exactly right. So those things are great as far as building your brand, which I think is pretty cool when you think about it. Because these relationships now are B2B relationships. This is a business-to-business partnership that I have with a company, and I'm a player. I'm helping you build your business, and you're helping me in return do the same thing. We have exchange of value, and so on. But yeah, getting down to that lasting financial future is really important. And then being able to do that in a way that's easily digestible and where the lines of communications with the player and their team is important as well. Players themselves now have 4 or 5 individuals around them at all times, and there should be something that they should have where each member of their team should get notified when they have an interest in doing something with their assets or with their own interests. So yeah, it's something that I'm very passionate about, especially when we think about what the other end of that looks like.
Did your passion arise like after you had been around and kind of learned like, hey, this could be something that's helpful? Or was kind of entrepreneurship something that you always had in your mind and always thought that in some way, shape, or form, like I would be, running my own business or company or.
I think I've always had that bug. I've always enjoyed business, and I've always been a tech nerd. In high school, I built a robot in a video game. I don't know how to code now, but the blended worlds of business, tech, sports, and even my passion for music, I started leaning in to figuring out a way of how to get all 4 of those things to come together. And the passion was there, and that's great. But the purpose didn't start coming along until I really started going all in on it. And the purpose is like crystal clear. It becomes bigger than yourself at that point.
When you chose to go to school at the University of Virginia, did you already know, like, hey, this could help me later on, through different majors or different programs that they had? And how has being a graduate from that university kind of helped you within entrepreneurship, even now after you've, graduated X amount of time ago?
Um, again, like I was originally committed to Cornell, so I wanted to go Ivy League. And it was my understanding that I wanted to have, again, something that like fall back on. And honestly, like, yeah, I felt like there's almost like a little, um, there's like a little pride that comes with saying like, oh, I'll go to Ivy League school,
Mm-hmm.
But being at UVA, I actually wanted to major in their commerce school, the comp school. And initially it felt like I was limited because I was an athlete. And then even more so, it was like, I'm a walk-on, so it's not like gonna be playing, but I still had to stick to the same, structure when it comes to practice and availability and all those
Right.
types of things. So I am actually so grateful that I landed in my major of sociology. And I actually think that if there's any college kids out there now, they should actually look more into sociology classes, either as a major or a minor, because it's the study of the interaction of people in certain environments. So for me, I'm able to observe a lot and understand, like you guys move a certain way here, and these groups of people move a certain way there. And I'd also say, like, to complement that, I got my master's at University of Miami in liberal studies, which to a lot of people is like, what is that? And the best way I can put that is a program that forces you to question everything. We went from questioning everything about the universe to love and understanding like criminality, like all these different things. But they also forced us to find solutions for those things. So the critical thinking skills combined with sociology just allowed me to identify problems, but also find paths to solve them.
Yeah, I think your experience is really cool because a lot of the time, when we hear or talk about entrepreneurship, there's this big sort of like ideology that like you don't need to go to school, right? Like you can just start your business, which is true in a lot of ways. But I think your point to like, hey, these educational experiences provided me so much, along the way, and that are things that I'm implementing, within my business now. And they weren't like you didn't study specifically business, right? But you studied other things that are a part of, running your own company. And I think, you know, touching on that was really important for people that are listening.
Yeah, it felt like that, and like when you think about the educational component of it, and then you think about sports and what sports teaches you, um, accountability, responsibility, teamwork, all these different skills. That yeah, those things again just blending together to create really like the perfect position. And I think that's again why this solution that we want to put out there is going to be so unique because athletes are athletes. I athletes are not just athletes. When that whole wave of like being more than just an athlete was a thing, like I think people should revisit that. We are being built to be business people. We are built to be stewards of a better world. Um, what I see is being able to have an athlete secure their financial future really means when they retire, whenever that time comes, they get to now explore their different career interests. They get to now start their own business and realize, hey, like all this work that I actually did, all these sacrifices, it actually means something beyond some trophies and some money. I can actually do something for the world. I can actually build teams to create something that will help my community. I can be a spokesperson for things that matter. So yeah, like those things are critical.
Yeah, what do you think that athletes could be doing during their time playing to prepare themselves for life after playing? Because I think, we know the statistics of playing professionally. It's really challenging. And so, what can they be doing throughout their playing career to kind of get them started?
Two things come to mind. The first one is ask questions. I think athletes need to do a better job of just asking questions. And you have guys that are doing that, and including them. I would keep asking questions. We're living in a time right now where change is everywhere. Whether it be from how jobs are being created, cut, the skills, upskilling, reskilling. Like there's so many layers to business that are going to impact jobs that I don't think athletes really, quite understand. And what I mean by that is typically it's like, okay, yeah, after I finish playing, I'll go into finance or I'll go into sales or whatever it is. But it's the fact that finance and sales have changed almost completely, or they will change in the next 5 years to things that they had no idea of what they meant. And the skills that they would have learned in college are completely different than what they are going to be. So continue to ask questions and be curious. The other thing that I would add to that that they could do, nurture relationships. They find themselves in all kinds of circles with different people. Some of these people are more behind the scenes, so they may not see it. But yeah, like I'm one of the managers that I had at UVA is now on the coaching staff of the Phoenix Suns. Another guy that I've been with for a little while, he's coaching in the NBA. There's so many guys just on that level that are now doing other things, and that's not even to mention the people that are showing up to their games, the people that are cheering them on. Nurture those relationships. Put yourself out there, even if it's just a handshake, a hello, or even if they have to talk to one of their team members. I think those are some things that they could do while they're playing.
One of the things I was talking about just the other day with one of my players is, he was kind of on the cusp, right, of deciding, do I continue to play, right, or be around the game, or do I, stop? And this player specifically, he's getting ready to make the transition from high school to college. And one of the questions that I asked him was, I said, like, what do you want to do after school, right? Like, what's your goal? Like, what do you want to major in? And, like, does that have anything to do with sports in some way, shape, or form? And I think one thing that, high school players going into college who are kind of on the cusp or transition of, do I play or do I not, is understanding, like, how valuable your network is and how much greater it can be when you play sports in college and when you play, or even just being a student manager or being a part of the team in some way. And I want you, because we've talked about this before about, like leveraging your relationships and the people that are in your corner. So talk about how UVA has allowed you to like cultivate these relationships and how your network is now still currently helping you with the work that you're doing today.
Yeah, no, that's a great point you bring up. Because again, it's nurturing them. It can't be too fast and be transactional and it not mean anything. So during my time at UVA, I was everywhere. I just embraced being around the school, and I'm a guy that just likes to wear a smile on my face, a lot. And so I meet people that way. And whether it be through people in the community, at the local schools. It'd be some businesses that, just happen to be like one of the big time UVA supporters. It's all that and more. The deans,
The alumni
the
networks.
alumni, the president, and a lot of times it doesn't feel like it's much, but it actually is a lot. It's like, why do I know the president of the university? And those things come back, to help you with your next steps when you are transitioning from college into whatever that thing might be. It's being able to have people that have been there, done that have seen things, be able to receive a different amount of perspectives for you to make your own best decision. Those things are all very helpful. And I'd also add that it's also, like, you don't want to come from a position of just taking either. You want to be able to ask people how their family's doing, ask them, about their own life, learn a couple things, especially, with when you're in a university environment. A lot of people want to share information and knowledge, give you some game. So yeah, being able to do that, builds genuine relationships. So where when you do pick up the phone and call, that they also hit you back, that they're also able to help you get from one to two. So yeah, like that for me is really important. And we're actually thinking about ways of how to help kids stay in one place, at these universities, because there's so much value that they're missing out on that they won't understand until a lot of times, unfortunately, it's too late. So yeah, like that's definitely going to play a part.
Two things that you said.
Mm-hmm.
The first is that taking the time to like be proactive and actually seek those resources out at the universities that you're at, and then also developing those relationships with a genuine intention.
That's right.
Right? Like you cannot meet somebody for the first time and say, "Hey, what can you do for me?"
Exactly.
Like these relationships take time to cultivate and build, and and they have to be genuine and authentic, and other people have to feel that as well in order for those connections to mean something along the way.
Exactly.
The other thing that makes me think of is mentors, right? Like, talk about who has influenced you, what mentors that you currently have, and why having a mentor is so valuable.
Yeah, that, and I seek mentors too. I let God lead the way, but for what I'm trying to achieve, I definitely know that there's a filter, right? Like I want to have people challenge me, because again, like, these are all skills that you learn from playing. It's like I want to learn from the best, so I want to be around the best.
Right.
And having a mentor is so important. There have been so many people along the way that have helped me, and actually, yeah, like this. I may have had a mentor, for instance, being in school with TB, and being around someone like that, being around our ADs and the other people that are there in Charlottesville, they helped shape me. But when I moved on, that doesn't mean that I closed the door on those relationships. And I think that's something that kids can benefit from too. Like you may transfer, but that doesn't mean that your relationships are folded either. If you had the right intentions on when you got there and committed, and you have the right intentions in knowing that again, this is part of the business, then yeah, like hopefully the relationships you built, you're able to also continue to nurture and have along the way. But yeah, all the coaches, my dad, of course,
The OG.
the OG. And it's kind of funny too because for him, on the basketball side, there's so many things now that I've seen that I'm able to also like, give him to as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there's, especially in this new space of tech, there have been some very genuine people that have come along the way that are just showing me the game, and showing me that this is a totally new field, an arena to play in. And what I'm really grateful for is my my ability to be coachable. I'm coachable.
Yep.
I've always been coachable, and again, those things translate. So if there wasn't a guy who was as coachable now, I hope that they learn how valuable that skill is on the other side, because you can learn from everybody, and you just never know, who you might meet, how they can help you, support you, and how you may be able to support them. So yeah, it's a cool, little space to play in.
Yeah, I love that you said, being coachable, and you're also somebody that runs your own company.
Yeah.
And so I think being open to still learning, right? You can still learn from people that you work with. There is a lot to be said about that. You talked about some of the advantages that you had of being an athlete and now kind of being on the business side. Talk about how can you differentiate, or how do you differentiate yourself in this like competitive sports, business and industry currently?
Yeah, we differentiate ourselves by focusing on these lasting solutions, and our moats to get there are the ways of how we separate ourselves. So won't reveal too much of that, but it's definitely how you structure your organization. It's how you structure your funnels. There's so many ways of how to continue to move efficiently, and that'll help move needles. But the other side of it is also just this understanding that I have. It's just me being myself. Whether that be my passion and energy that I bring to my team, that we can all share and build this like hive mind to execute and deliver a product that people can benefit from, to my experience in this industry, and learning the history of it, being around it at such a young age, and seeing where it's going. Those three things are great ways for me to put all of that into a product. Because I've seen it on so many different levels, from playing, coaching, GMs, agents. There's so many, like administration, like there's so many layers to it to create this, 360 type of product, an experience.
What is one of the, best ways that players can leverage social media to grow their personal business and create, more financial freedom?
One way, which
And how does your company help them with that too?
yeah. So how we're gonna do that is we are rewriting the book on education when it comes to athletes and the things that they need to understand and know. A lot of athletes have the benefit of going to certain schools where they're exposed to a lot at a young age, and they're able to understand quicker. But then the people that missed out on that, like, what are you supposed to do? You can't give. There's a saying that you just can't drop a Ferrari off in any type of country. Like you have to actually expose people to certain things first, and then present them that Ferrari. But yeah, that's how we're going about it. A way that athletes can position themselves online is, I'll start with the present side of it. It's being a bit more, stringent on what brands they wear. Just don't wear anything. Be very selective and choose wisely because the game is changing. Brand affinity is a thing, and brand affinity means like the loyalty to your brand. So, I'm sorry to laugh, but it's a business. Like these brands aren't just throwing money at anybody. You know, they're looking for certain expectations and outcomes from these partnerships. So if the field is saying that they're not receiving these types of results that they're looking for, they're changing their strategy. And a way to embrace this change is by being loyal to a certain brand. Do you actually like the product, or did you like the money that came with it? Because the consumers understand what's real and what's not, you know, and something in the future that they should be on the lookout for is data ownership. So right now we are positioning ourselves to partner with a platform that can assist them with that too, and just understanding that you have value that you bring everywhere. And
Explain more about like data ownership, because like I understand what you mean, but some people may
it's
not.
true. So data ownership and Web3. Web3 is this new iteration of the internet. Right now, everyone is using Web2, and Web3 will allow people to not just create data, but own their data. And by owning your data, now platforms like Instagram don't just get to share, you know, like sell off your information to other parties to help them with their business. You'll be able to have your own. And that's so important because athletes are one of the only groups of people that have eyes on them for as long as they do. They're one of the last, actually, in right now. So the fact that an athlete might be able to own the rights to their own social media, their own data, their own name, image, and likeness, that can go a long way, you know, if you go about it the right way.
And I think to your point, you know, athletes having eyes on them means that it's really important the things that you're posting and sharing,
Right.
right? Like, you know, from a brand perspective or a company perspective, wanting to work with people that represent your company in the best light. And, you know, we see this all the way down at the youth level
That's right.
of things that athletes post online, but like, you know, go more into depth about
Yeah.
how that could actually impact your like opportunity to land a brand deal.
Yes. So let's start with the fact that, and these are things that no one's even told me, you know, like
Just have to figure it out.
FIO, figure it out. Money is an exchange of value. So the fact that athletes are getting paid more money at a younger age means there's an exchange of value. That value can mean your own court performance on how you are helping your team win. But at the end of the day, those things again help with revenue. It helps with expansion. You know, like all those things play a much bigger part in a bigger thing. So when it comes to a brand deal, it's the same thing. Again, these are B2B partnerships. And the landscape of being an athlete has changed. Athletes have to embrace this newfound responsibility. Like I'm responsible for helping other businesses also scale, helping them grow, helping them accomplish their goals. As much as you want it to just be about basketball or football or whatever that sport may be, there's just an additional layer of responsibility. And to some degree, it was always there. Is that you weren't getting paid.
Right.
You know, but with this additional layer of getting paid, that means that you have to position yourself in a way to optimize your results. If you want the best results during your time playing, athletes have to be a little bit more aware of how they can show themselves, of how they present themselves to the general public. They're constantly, especially with tech now, they're constantly being products that are actually trying to show businesses and athletes value. And while a lot of times you don't want to put that to a dollar amount, it's very important for athletes to understand that they can be themselves, but at the same time, they can put their best foot forward because they are leaders. They are, again, we go back to what they're going to be able to do, with our platform and getting to the things that matter most. So it's cool, like athletes are the new superheroes today, and it's like, hey, if you want to wear that cape, it comes with something. Heavy is the head that wears the crown, and that's just part of it.
Yeah, I love that you said that. People look up to athletes and watch them closely. So it is important to represent yourself in the best light always. For me, I'm thinking, how has like the game of basketball and the business side of it evolved? And where do you see like more opportunities for growth?
The game of basketball has definitely changed. When you think about just the expansion of the NBA, it's pretty cool to watch and how they'll be in Europe. Basketball in Africa is also growing, and just sports in general. Sports as an asset class is pretty cool, and all that means is investors, public or private, are now being able to see sports as an avenue to put their money towards and have that money grow. So basketball is going to play a huge part in that because it's a global game, that everyone loves to enjoy, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how revenue models change when it comes to data ownership because you have media rights deals involved. And I can give like a little quick breakdown of that as well.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, so when you think about this media rights deal that the NBA just went through, that's having a certain amount of outlets that they were willing to pay, that networks were willing to pay. So like Amazon and ESPN, all these different networks, to put it on their screens, to have consumers use their products, which is great. And the CBA, so the Players Association, fought to get a percentage of that. So you guys are watching us, like I should definitely get a percentage of you guys watching me.
Right.
So when that explodes, we think about how much money players are earning. And like Shea just signed, and Shea's going to eventually get $80 million in one season. So you think about that, the amount of money that athletes are going to continue to make will just continue to expand. It's a global product. So again, we want to be able to give them something that's going to last, something that any 19-year-old's going to get drafted and eventually make $30 million in a seat. Like, it's going to get crazy, but the data ownership component to that will be interesting because they may want to hold on to more of what they do behind the scenes in the locker rooms, on traveling on the road. A lot of these guys, if I'm an athlete, I'd have my own camera crew around recording all the things. You see you guys like D-Lo and all them do it already. Capture the things that I do.
Right, personal brand.
Personal brand. And now I'm able to build whatever it is that I want out of that. I can have my own production company and have that spin off into something I could sell rather than, a league doing that on my behalf and I don't get the cut that I deserve from that. So like that'll be interesting. NIL in general college monetization is going to be interesting. NIL is something everybody has, but for college athletes, that will be pretty cool to watch over the next couple of years too. There are someone's just got to eventually ask, where's all this money going to come from? You know, they have to pay people from the time I was playing. They've got to pay these guys now, and it's the same setup. It's media rights deals to certain networks. Certain conferences have certain networks, and the money's going to continue to grow. Before, donors are paying this kind of money, or very engaged and active alumni, or friends of alumni are engaged in a lot of these things. But they're doing their best to mitigate all that, but the future of it will be interesting. Who's going to pay for all these deals to get done? But yeah, I think another area which will be exciting to watch is women's sports. Women's sports is
Blowing up.
It's blowing up, but it's sustaining itself too, and that I think is pretty cool.
I think the women's game is arguably more exciting right now than the men's game, almost at every level, I think.
And what's funny is, to me, it's always been that way, really. The passion, just getting after it, and it does help having this type of coverage too, because the storytelling along with it, you can only help but like really start paying attention a lot more. I know Braun mentioned it before, but they also stay there longer. They can't leave until, was it 3 years in school?
I want to say it's still all 4 years.
All
I
4?
believe they have to get their degree before
Wow.
they can declare for the draft. I believe so.
Yeah, so even just that alone, like it's again having that affinity. It's like, okay, I'm able to stick to my team, or especially when a coach can try their best to get a core team together. It's like, okay, we're going on a run for the next couple of years with this squad. But in soccer, it's exploding. Volleyball, like League One volleyball. I've been fortunate to meet, the founder, CEO of League One Volleyball recently, and how she's trying to build up this league and honestly like care for these players from the moments that they're young, all the way to being a professional volleyball player is really unique. They don't necessarily have the same model where they have to copycat a men's league. So they're doing it on their own in a very innovative way. That's pretty cool. So I'm paying attention to that too. But yeah, no, sports is in a good place, and basketball is too. But yeah, there's so many different things going on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well, last question that I have for you. What advice would you give your 12-year-old self?
My 12-year-old self. Ooh, get out of your own way. And just you just gotta go for it. Just have some fun while you're doing it, and trust that everything is going to be just fine. That's the advice that I would give. Like through this journey that I'm going through now, from when I was in school, I'm learning these things now. Like just getting out of my own way, and knowing that everything I already need is already within me. And for the things that aren't, so long as I continue to stay on the path, it will reveal itself.
It's powerful.
Yeah, honestly, like that should be the advice. Like that is the biggest thing that I've learned recently. So it's just trusting yourself, through the whole process and doing that.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. I think you have such a unique perspective and journey, and I'm really excited for people to be able to get to learn more about you, get to learn more about the things that you're doing, because
Yeah.
I think that you got a lot of great things for athletes that you offer. And so I just want to thank you again for joining me today.
No, thanks. Yeah, I'm glad I'm able to be here, share a little bit more about Aston, and honestly, like just talk about it. Like I'm so glad that we're able to always do this, but now being able to do it on this stage and this great platform that you guys have provided here. So no, it was cool.
Every time you talk about Aston, you light up.
Hey, it says something. Yeah.
It
No,
does.
I'm excited about it.
For people that don't know you, where can they find you? How can they learn more about Aston, and where can they go?
Yeah. Or they can find me on Instagram, Threads, LinkedIn. The username is JAHSTCE. And they can find Aston, at Aston Soc. So ASTN SOC. That's where we'll be, to continue to spread and, do our thing. But they can also find us, in some events. We'll be holding a lot of events that'll be able to get everybody involved and engaged as well. So a few places to pay attention to.
Thank you again.
Of course.